last week we kind of did a survey of the scriptures. We kind of started at the beginning and we worked a lot of the way through it. And in that, we saw God's heart for those who are often forgotten. Specifically, the repetition that we saw was that God's heart was with the foreigner, God's heart was with the widow, and God's heart was with the orphan. And this sort of trifecta, this triad that you see pop up through the scriptures is really just short form for God sees those who are on the margins of our society. God sees those who are often forgotten. God sees those who our world forgets. So this month we're going to take some time and we're going to hear from people that are doing sort of frontline work with those who the world often forgets. This morning we're hearing from Jen with Pelham Cares. So Jen, we just invite you to come on up. Jen's going to share a little bit about what is happening on the streets here in Pelham. And Jen and her husband Steve. And so we invite you. Welcome, Jen. It's great to have you here.
This is nice, yeah. So I know John had reached out and invited us here, so thank you for inviting us here. Most of you may know that Pelham Cares is basically not advertised advertised as a faith-based agency, but I am a Christian, and I found Jesus when I was 19, thanks to my husband who invited me to a children's. He invited me to a children's service, which then I became a little bit more familiar, and I said I needed this right then and there. So Steve and I have been married for 27 years. We have 3 adult children, and I see one of my teachers that taught my kids, which is great. And they still live at home. They moved back, but now they're back at home, and I enjoy them having them home. Steve and I were in children's ministry for 18 years. As our kids grew, we developed our own children's ministry back. But COVID hit, and our ministry ended, unfortunately. I don't know if anybody's heard of Mini Sticks. We used to run a Mini Stick program back in Welland. I just wanted to give you a little bit of a background of myself. So then I came to start at Pelham Cares right in March 2020. I had left a full-time government job working with people, helping them find employment. But I left because my daughter was ill at the time, so I needed something part-time and closer to home. I prayed if this was something God wanted me to do, then he would open the doors and figure out what that would look like. So I took a part-time job, cut and pay, nonprofit. But I trusted God and felt this was something that was possibly going to be better for our family at the time. But at the time, had no idea COVID was going to hit. And basically the day I started and was done my training and left alone, the whole globe shut down. So everything that I learned and was trained to do was forgotten. It didn't even exist. So for Pelham Cares, when COVID hit, we started partnering with other local food banks. Open Arms was one of my first partner. Marty came, and Marty knew me from the church family. We attended Rice Road, and Marty called me right up, and he said, "Jen, I heard that you are managing Pelham Cares. Let's have a conversation." And I said, "Absolutely, I need to be mentored into this industry." So he was fabulous. He offered his storage space, his warehouse back over in Forks Road. He offered his cooler space. At the time for 2020, the donations for Pelham Cares was phenomenal. We were getting food donations. We were getting stuff by the pallets. We were getting monies, fundraisers. Things were going just like full speed ahead. And I was just, wow. It was just very overwhelming to be part of such an enormous community generosity. But for Pelham Cares, we're a tiny little house, and it was just too much for us to handle. So I had reached out to Open Arms, and we became a partnership. So that was in 2020. Then we move into 2021, and the long impact of COVID started to settle in on our community, and that's when vaccines were introduced, and policies and politics and conflicts and all that kind of came in to churches as well into the food bank industry as well. So there was a lot of challenging aspects that happened with Pelham Cares. Fear, people wanting, do we still serve our community with the fear of getting sick? We have volunteer drivers who, literally pick up people to take them to their medical drives, and most of them are retired and are seniors. We had a handful that stayed with us, and we put those policies and protections in, and I'm so thankful for those that stayed and were able to continue that program, because that program runs on volunteers only. So if we didn't have volunteers that were faithful in providing that service, then our people wouldn't be able to get to their appointments. So that is a huge thing that Pelham Cares is very proud of. So 2021, it was a pivot year for us moving forward. How do we move forward with how COVID is affecting us? It's not just a 2-week thing, it's now become a year and no end to this. So then 2022 came, and our elevator started. Our elevator, so at our house, at our facility, we have an upper and we have a lower. So our lower would be considered our warehouse, and that's where all of our overflow impact of our inventory is. And then we have like an elevator that kind of goes up and down from floors. Well, it got shut down by TSSA. So 11 months we had zero transportation going up and down to our facility, and it ended right after, like literally days after our food drive in 2021. So I had all this inventory and had to get it to the basement and get it sorted. So I look through God's eyes in this position saying, okay, I know that I can't figure this out on my own. How is this going to work? I had kids. I put it out. I had youth kids. I had kids with muscles, and they had spares in the morning, so they would come in first thing before they went to school, and they would lug that stuff downstairs for us, or lug more stuff to go into our food room that goes out that week. I don't know how it happened. It's got to be definitely how God works in Pelham Cares. Even though we think that Pelham Cares is a non-faith-based organization, He is still there, present. I just see it through my own eyes. So there's no way I could have thought of 11 months. All of our volunteers are retired, and I didn't want them to hurt their backs, and our stairs are very narrow, correct? But 11 months of youth putting in their time during and in and out of school, it was phenomenal. So October 31st, 2022, our new dumbwaiter was officially ready to use. So I'll always remember October 31st as a different day for muscles. So 2022, our elevator at the end was good, but mental health became a little bit more of a need for us at Pelham Cares. So we found more families separating, coming to us, single moms coming to us. We saw kids not returning back to school because of COVID and the online and the social anxiety of heading back into school. We saw that more often. Domestic violence, we saw that more often, women coming in from shelters or sitting or living on people's couches just because they couldn't find anywhere to go that was safe. Grandparents taking custody of their grandkids and raising their kids, so we are helping now grandparents because they're on a fixed income. We're seeing that more because their children are suffering through addiction and can't care for their child, so they want to keep their grandkids out of the foster homes, so they are taking on that responsibility at a time in their life where they would be retired and not working. Rent and utilities are becoming more and more barely affordable, so we're getting more and more phone calls for, I'm going to be evicted, my hydro is getting cut off, I can't pay my gas. And Pelham Cares, to be honest, doesn't deal with a lot of those programs. You don't have the money to go and help them. So pulling together our partnerships and our networks is what a lot of my job is nowadays, is just networking and who can I call to help these people. Pelham doesn't have a wide spread of supports. We're a small town, and it's unfortunate because a lot more people don't drive that are coming to us because it's not affordable to pay rent and own a car. And then if you do own a car, it's usually always breaking down, so then you can't afford to fix your car because then that's an added expense. So it's just like a ripple that we're seeing more and more often at Pelham Cares. I'm so privileged to be part of Pelham Cares because I get to see the smiles when you offer hope or an encouraging, like, don't worry, we can help you out, you're not alone. So what we do with our food is we provide them the support to save that week or 2 weeks of going to the grocery store, so that expense of paying for food can then go towards your utility or go towards your rent or go towards a payment. There's no judgment coming for food, but now we're not just getting people for food, we're getting people for referrals or a listening ear. We've opened up a front store in our facility now too, so we normally pre-pack the food, and we're letting them like pick a grocery list kind of thing, and then we pre-pack it, and Steve is one of our traffic guiders because our driveway is very small on a very busy street, so he's out there usually when the people are coming to pick up their food. But now we've opened up a front room so that when I built new partners for frozen and bread and different types of food that we don't get on. I used to have to pay for it. So now that front room, they can open up the freezer and they can take bacon because I've got it available, or they have an extra frozen chicken that they can take, or a container of baked cookies that are $8 at the grocery store that now they can have out of our freezer if we have it. So that's been overwhelming success for us to build a little bit more partnership on our food sources. So 2023, coming to 2023 is...
Before you do that.
Yes.
I've been very quiet.
Yes, you have been. Yes.
Well, I didn't think I needed it.
Yeah, online.
Oh, well, hi, people online. Sorry about that. Good point. I'm very impressed with Jen's bartering abilities because she would call Marty, I'm out of milk. Oh, well, we got milk. And then Marty would be like, oh, we're kind of out of eggs. Oh, we got eggs. Oh, good. I'll see you in an hour. Swap back and forth. There's so many different organizations, not just Open Arms, which I'm pretty sure Marty's going to be here next week, which is really cool. They're faith-based. Pelham Cares is not faith-based. It's a little different, but like Jen mentioned, God is everywhere. And so because of that, God is using different people in Pelham Cares to have the gospel spread out in different ways. But we can't do it, with tracts and handing out Bibles because it's not a faith-based place, unfortunately, where Marty has he can do whatever he wants. We just do it a little more secretively, but we still do it.
Yeah. So 2023, we are rebuilding our board of directors. So what happened in 2021, 2022 with all that conflict and the vaccines and everything and challenges that went on, we lost a lot of volunteers. We lost a lot of board members. So 2023 is a time for rebuild. It's a time to reconnect to what is Pelham Cares to our community, and let's focus on that, not on what we did in the past, which is really hard for people to, when it comes to change, we celebrated 40 years this year for Pelham Cares, which is it's a bittersweet. Do we want to say we celebrate 40 years because we've been needed in the community? Not really. I'm hoping to work myself out of a job, but right now we're more needed now than we've ever been. So 2023 hit, we are slammed with the need. More so, we are pretty much 50% higher in children and 400% higher in new families that we serve, which is just incredible. So very busy.
By the way, 40 years ago, this all started with the church.
That's right.
40 years ago. They put a petition, not a petition, what do you call it?
Proposal.
Proposal,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at English.
1983, yes.
And so they put a proposal into the township and granted, and then of course things changed over the years, and as things usually do, and then the boss my boss, because I'm voluntold to do everything maybe I don't want to, but I have no choice.
No, you have a choice. So we've recruited new volunteers, which are phenomenal. They come with great, refreshed ideas, and I'm always looking for new volunteers. I'll have a little spiel at the end for you on that. We celebrated our 40th anniversary at the town, and the town has granted us a Pelham Cares Day on May 24th. So that is kind of cool. So next year, I don't know what we're going to do on May 24th, but we were granted a nice little certificate, and May 24th is now considered Pelham Cares Day, which is fabulous. And we're just rebuilding our core again is what we're doing, just to save. We're moving forward. We have to move forward, and we just have a very positive environment now. It's everyone's so friendly. So I want to now share some stories of what I've seen and how, again, through my eyes and seeing how God works at Pelham Cares. So this church, actually, is going to be my first story. So we have a drive client, and our drive clients are usually separate from those who use our food services. So we had a drive client who is partially blind, mostly blind, but partially blind, called us to let us know that her live-in partner committed suicide and now is living on her own. And it was a long, wonderful conversation, lots of crying, lots of tears, but she still needs our help for drives. But this partner worked around the house for her and did things around the house, so now she's by herself. So I had reached out to a local Christian fellow and said, do you mind heading, it was the electrician because she had some electrical problems, and when you're blind, you don't want to mess around with electrical fires and things like that. So I reached out to one of our Christian electricians, and I said, do you mind just stopping over and, checking the things out for her and things like that? So he did, free of charge, and he just fixed some of her light bulbs, changed some of her light bulbs, fixed some of her fixtures and things like that, because one of our volunteers had offered, but it was too extensive for him to do. So we had to resort to an electrician. Well, through that electrician, in a family, there was the old pastor that was here, and he apparently was handyman and was introduced to this woman, and not only just introduced her and fixed her railings so that she wouldn't fall, but also added a padlock to her door so she was safe when, no intruders and things like that. So he also did a little extra work in her house. But not only that, he then invited her to have a barbecue with his family and some other people, probably from this church. I don't know. But I got a call from her about a month later saying, thank you so much for that introduction, because not only did I feel so alone and I didn't know how I was going to go on without my life partner, because that was my world, you've introduced me to a whole new support system that I never knew I would ever have. So I want to say thank you to anybody who's been involved in that here at this church. If not, that's one story of how I network. Another one is we're getting a lot of Ukraine families residing here in Pelham. And I'm going to tell you, Google Translate is my best friend, because I can say something in English and turn around and put that speaker on, and we can have a conversation. Who would have thought, honestly? Like, who would have thought technology could be so amazing? So that's how a lot we get conversations with our Ukraine. Our website is now translatable in 4 languages, French, Spanish, and Ukraine, so that this way when they come in, I can just pull up the website. If you can't understand what we offer, go home and please read it. And they're just filled with tears to think that they could actually come to our country and read something in their language. We're getting a lot of different churches that are sponsoring some of the Ukraine families that are coming in. So they're coming in with their church sponsor, and then we're able to help them out with whatever needs that come about. Currently, if anybody is looking for somebody to hire, some of them are looking for work. They come here with a certain amount of money, and then that's it. Then they're pretty much on their own. So I'm hoping to maybe network with some employment help to bring to Pelham to help in that kind of aspect as well too. So a lot of my job is networking for whatever need comes into the door. We have the dental bus coming this month and next month coming to Pelham, which is fabulous. So that will help anybody 17 and younger get looked at for their dental hygiene. Our youth subsidy, here's another one. A youth subsidy program is one of our programs that we offer at Pelham Cares. And when the camps start opening, I try to reach out to the churches. If anybody is doing a VBS, I would love to know about it because I send our kids there. I'll send the email or the information to those that have children, and they will send their children there. It's free. It's a half a day. It's a break through the summer for the children, and the children do go. I do know that there's one family that has 7, 8, 9 kids, and sent them. Like, the kids loved it. And then, so every time there's something going on, I get an email, and okay, sure, no problem, I'll send it. So if you know of anything that's happening, and even in your church, let me know. I can send it, and hopefully somebody will take that bite and attend. But for our youth subsidy, I reached out to Bethany Church Camp here on Balfour, and was able to send a few families, children, there for a couple weeks, a couple summers in a row. And the one mom actually starts attending the church now and is involved in their Friday morning Bible studies. And through her challenges, which are still ongoing, she now has a Christian support group that are great, and they'll bring her and get her food. So again, another one that doesn't drive to come and get their food. So any support that I can try to reach out to help is as a bonus. So those we serve will donate back their time in volunteering. They'll come in and drop off a check and say, hey, thank you for helping me out during our difficult time. We want to pay it back to you guys. So we see that happening at Pelham Cares as well. So our volunteers will come from all walks. We have families that attend local churches. We have Jewish background. We have atheists. We have all walks of life that are volunteers with us. We have widows. We have people who are newly diagnosed with cancer. They come here. They come to Pelham Cares for something to do, to fill their time, to be distracted, but they end up gaining a family. And I see that firsthand when I see them exchange their phone numbers with each other. I see how some ladies will make meals for somebody who just lost a family member. It just warms my heart that it's not just for the people that we serve, it's for the people that are inside working as well. So I am just so blessed to be part of Pelham Cares in more than, it's not a job for me, it's a ministry. And I don't want to take any more of your time, but my last little story is my husband here. We almost lost him on May 9th of this year. And our volunteers were amazing for me. So they pulled together, and they were texting me, and they were texting Steve, and he pulled through. He was in ICU for 5 days and then 3 days on the 5th floor, but he pulled through. He's still recovering, but we're a family, and I cannot be more thankful. And some of our volunteers that don't believe in God, and they said, you know what, Jen? I know that you believe in your God, but I really think that there is a God for a miracle of Steve. So I have to say that we may not be able to hand out tracts or sit and pray with people, which Steve actually does outside. He prays with them. He calls it his prayer bench. But again,
I don't know where that bench actually came from. I know where it came from. They don't call it a prayer bench, but bench was there. It's right in front, and it's covered over, windbreaker, everything else. And just one day, I sat a senior lady down on the bench and just wanted to have a conversation because she was crying. I don't know what she was crying about. And so I always spend all my time outside. I'm not even allowed on the inside. That's I spend my time outside. But yeah, this bench is outside, so I call it the prayer bench. And then I got in trouble by the boss. What are you doing? I says, well, how did you know? She says, well, another volunteer said, hey, your husband out there hugging and holding hands and praying with somebody. It's like, that's just what, you know what? Fire me.
Yeah, we
But
just have to be
that's been a
respectful, yeah.
blessing. And you know what? When people come in and cry and they can't even hardly drive, or the one story, the son was getting sent to war.
Yeah.
Just there's a lot of crazy stories that, you know what? Sometimes you just got to give them a hug
Yep.
and a prayer, whatever works. And you know what? We have God on our side. So like Jen mentioned earlier, God is in Pelham Cares in so many different ways. So,
Yeah. So
and you could be too.
So I'll just end with this. Like, I just use the verse, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he shall direct your paths. Through all the challenges and pivoting that we've had to do, that's just how I get through the challenges. There's times where I want to quit, and then there's times where somebody will come through the door and it's like, no, I can't quit. This is where I'm meant to be. So I'm done. I do have admin positions available if anybody's looking, and a Wednesday morning frozen sorting job. If anybody wants to be part of Pelham Cares and our little family, I welcome you. Thank you.
So Jen has magazine, business magnets. Yeah, did I say magazine? Anyway, so she's got these magnets that are business card size with the phone number to reach her. We did not bring a table or a tent or nothing. We're not asking for financial donations or nothing like that today, but something to just consider, because Pelham Cares does need volunteers still. So with this session here, I'm just going to close in prayer. I'm going to invite Pastor John up here, okay? Awesome God, we just thank you that we can pray to you because of Jesus Christ, the sacrifice he made. We can pray to you through him. We just thank you for Pelham Cares and all the opportunities there to serve. God, we want to serve you. You deserve more than we can even give you back. So we just thank you and pray for safety and all of those that are volunteering and those that are going to come in the future to join the team. We pray all this, and with God, we thank you for this church in Pelham, all these wonderful people here, and we just thank you ahead of time for their prayers, for everything that's going on at Pelham Cares. I pray all of this in Jesus' name, amen.
It's interesting when you think about Pelham and Fonthill and the area. There's almost a veneer of how good it is in this area, right? And how affluent the community is. Jen, you disrupted some of that. And one of the amazing things about living in an area and hearing the true story is that it gives us more insight into how to be the church locally. Right? How to be the church locally. Many of you will remember that we have values that help direct our community, some of our decision making. The big why of our church is we aim to facilitate environments where we nurture an ever-deepening love of God and an ever-broadening love of others. And we do this by being clearly Christ-centered, relentlessly relational, intentionally intergenerational, boldly biblical, and neighborly. And there's a vertical axis there where we truly do revel in being called friends of God, right? In John 15:15, where you have Jesus talking, and he says, I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I have called you friends. For everything that I learned from my Father, I have made known to you. So there's that vertical axis where we're aimed to be neighborly to God, but then the horizontal axis where we're aimed to be neighborly to the community that we find ourselves in. And just down in verse 17 there, where it says, Jesus says, this is my command, love each other, right? Love each other, and that filters into that ever-broadening love of others. Now, there's some of the younger adults here at the church are diving into a Dietrich Bonhoeffer book study. It started last week, and it's going to be continuing. And in this book, it's the book Life Together by Dietrich Bonhoeffer. And he says these words: the person who loves their dream of community will destroy community. But the person who loves those around them will create community. And his point there is that true love, like when we see Jesus, his command to love each other, love one another, it actually requires loving real people. Real people with all the mess, with all the brokenness, with all the oddities, with all the weirdness. Real people. It's not about a dream community, right? Pelham, Fonthill, the veneer, the dream of an affluent community. No, real people, real circumstances, real situations addressing real needs. Pelham Cares and locally allows churches to do that, and allows us to do that. So friends, as we consider being neighborly and following just the drive to nurture an ever-deepening love of God and an ever-broadening love of others, may we consider ways to kind of weave our story with Pelham Care's story and help out where we're able. I just want to invite the worship team to come on up and do our final song.